Can the Canadian election be rigged? The only reason to consider this question is efforts by Donald Trump to discredit the 2020 US presidential election. Trump's "the election was rigged" disinformation campaign was a key part of his victory in the 2024 race. I see concerns raised regularly that Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party of Canada may try a similar tactic if they lose the election later tonight. But the Canadian election system is much more robust than its American counterpart. Better designed, more resources, simple but effective, and intended to make it easier to vote, not harder. Canadians are understandably proud of their election process, which is arguably one of the best in the world, according to political science professor Duane Bratt of Mount Royal University. He says that the Canadian political class will universally accept the results of tonight's vote. Duane, most Canadians think that a national election process, the system, is robust and can't be rigged. Is that correct? And if it is, why?
Absolutely. And I would argue that we have one of the best electoral systems in the world. If there's a better one, I'd like to see it. It's of a very high standard.
What makes our system robust and of a high standard?
I would say a couple things. One is we have one body, Elections Canada, that does the election right across the country. That I think is absolutely critical. That has been in place for over 120 years, 115 years. So I think that's one standard. The other is the simplicity, right? You don't have these long ballots where you've got multiple things that you're voting on. It's usually one, maybe a couple other referendums that they throw in, but it's simple. You use pencil, you use paper. It's not very complex. And we throw a lot of resources into it. I get shocked when I see these massive lineups at polling stations around the world. And we don't have that in Canada because we put the resources in and we put polling stations where people are. We're not trying to rig it to dissuade people from voting. So I think we have one well-organized, well-equipped resource. We put money into it. We put people into it. And I say another thing is political elites accept it as well. There are going to be disgruntled people who may make certain accusations, but you're not hearing that from party leaders or senior members of the party. You may in a party election, ironically, but not in a federal election. So I think it's those combination of factors.
Duane, one of the distinguishing features of the Canadian system, I think, is the paper ballots and manual counts. How important
Yeah.
is that to ensuring accuracy?
I don't think there's a problem with using voting counting machines, not voting machines, but where you simply count the ballots. I don't see a problem with that. But given the accusations that we've seen over the last several years about that, the fact that we use pencil and paper just seems to add credibility to it, that's a very difficult thing to rig.
Another feature of this is secure voter registration, and you have, as Canadians, we voted. We know that we have to go there with ID, and there'll be a list, and it gets double
But
checked.
you don't need ID.
Oh,
Um,
sorry.
yeah, I mean, it helps. It makes it go a bit smoother, but you can actually vote without ID. There's procedures that are in place called a vouching system, and it works very well. And the reason I mention this is because in the Harper years, there was a cabinet minister by the name of Pierre Poilievre who tried to bring in voter ID because he was convinced that there was voter fraud. He was forced to back down on that by the public, and so people want to bring those things in to actually impede voting. Thankfully, we don't have that
Well,
at a
let's talk.
federal level.
Well, let's talk about anti-fraud measures. Under the Canadian system, it's very difficult to double vote, isn't it?
It is because you've got the voting cards that you have to go with. Even if you register to vote at that time, which is quite rare, it is tough to duplicate. So the opportunity, and I would say that exists in most systems, is it's very tough to cheat on in a not in a party election, but a general election.
What about the legal framework for this? I gather that we're governed by the Canada Elections Act, and unlike the U.S. system, where you've got the United Citizens Supreme Court decision that lets kind of big money in to influence it, we have very strict regulations.
Campaign finance rules, absolutely, and those rules are followed. We have a short campaign. I did an interview on American TV this morning, and they're just dismayed that we are able to have a campaign that lasts only 35 days instead of 2 years, right? And they
Okay,
would
now
love to have the system that we have in place. We're able to keep money out, and I think that's a good thing.
Another feature of our system is the amount of resources we pour into accessible voting. If you live in an Indigenous community, if you're handicapped, we go out of our way to make it easy for you to vote.
Absolutely. Differently able people as well, all sorts of assistance. That idea of inclusion is very important. We actually have an organization trying to get as many people to vote as possible. Whereas in the US, which is our largest comparison, you actually have groups designed to dissuade people from voting. That's a major difference. And it's because there's an organization in charge of doing that.
Let's wrap up the interview this way, Duane. Do you think that however the election turns out today, that there might be accusations of, the election is rigged by those who lost?
I think there will be, but they won't be people in power. You will not see Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre or a senior member of the party. They're just going to be trolls on the internet. And some of those are probably Chinese or American or Russian bots. We have had no serious allegations ever about electoral fraud on any sort of wide scale basis. Where we have seen accusations, rightfully so, is in party leadership races, because there the party sets the rules, counts the votes, and does everything. And parties aren't always neutral in who they want to win. So, yeah, I do think we will see some of that tomorrow. But I wouldn't take that seriously unless you have a senior actor going forward. And that's a big difference. And
Right.
I think there would be massive retaliation by the rest of the political class if we saw someone try to gin that up.
Duane, thank you very much for this. Really appreciate it.
Okay, you're welcome, Markham.